The hiking boots made a soft, crunching sound against the fallen leaves as Maya walked deeper into the mountain forest. She had been walking for hours, following the winding trail that twisted between tall pine trees and rocky slopes. Was getting lower in the sky, painting everything in golden light that filtered through the branches above. Maya loved these solo hiking trips. As a park ranger, she spent most of her days dealing with tourists and paperwork, but out here in the wilderness, she could just be herself. The forest was quiet, except for the occasional bird call and the gentle rustle of wind through the trees. She had planned to reach the old wooden shelter by sunset, set up her tent, and spend the night under the stars. But nature had other plans. Dark clouds began rolling in from the west, moving much faster than the weather report had predicted. Maya checked her phone, but there was no signal this deep in the mountains. The temperature was dropping quickly, and she could smell snow in the air. This was not good. She was still 3 miles from the shelter, and the trail ahead climbed. Steeply through exposed rocky terrain, the first snowflakes began to fall as Maya quickened her pace. Within minutes, what started as a light dusting turned into a proper snowstorm. The wind picked up, making the trees creak and groan around her. Snow began sticking to the ground, making the trails slippery and dangerous. Maya pulled her jacket tighter and kept moving, but she knew she was in trouble. By the time darkness fell, Maya could barely see 5 feet ahead of her. The snow was coming down so hard that it was covering her footprints almost as soon as she made them. Her fingers were getting numb despite her gloves, and she could feel the cold seeping through her boots. The trail had become impossible to follow, and she realized she might be walking in circles. Just when panic started to set in, Maya noticed something strange through the swirling snow. There was a soft, warm glow coming from somewhere ahead, like the light from a campfire, but somehow different. It was steadier and had an unusual blue-white color that seemed to cut through the storm. Maya stumbled toward it, hoping against hope that another hiker had set up camp nearby. What she found was unlike anything she had ever seen. In a small clearing protected by a circle of large rocks, someone had set up what looked like a camp, but nothing about it was ordinary. The shelter was dome-shaped and seemed to be made of a material that glowed softly from within. It was completely dry inside the circle, as if the snow was somehow avoiding that particular spot. The warm light was coming from panels or strips built into the shelter walls, and there was no visible fire or generator. Standing near the entrance of the shelter was a young woman who appeared to be about Maya's age. She had long, dark hair that seemed to shimmer in the strange light, and she was wearing clothing that Maya didn't recognize. The material looked almost liquid, shifting and flowing as the woman moved, and it seemed to be keeping her perfectly warm despite the freezing temperature. The woman looked up as Maya approached, and their eyes met across the clearing. For a moment, neither of them moved. Maya felt a mix of relief and confusion. She was grateful to find shelter and another person, but everything about this scene felt impossibly strange. The woman's clothes, the unusual shelter, the way the snow seemed to avoid the area completely. None of it made sense. Then the woman smiled, and Maya felt some of her tension ease. It was a warm, genuine smile that seemed to say everything would be okay. The woman gestured toward Maya, then toward the shelter, and spoke in a voice that sounded musical and unfamiliar. "You are cold," the woman said, though her accent was unlike anything Maya had heard before. The words seemed to flow together in an almost singing pattern.
"Wow, the storm is strong tonight."
"You should not be alone in this weather." Maya nodded, still trying to process what she was seeing. I got caught in the storm," she managed to say, her teeth chattering. "I was trying to reach the shelter on the trail, but I think I got lost." The woman's expression showed concern and understanding, even though Maya suspected she might not have understood every word. She pointed to herself and said, "I am Kira." Then she pointed to Maya with a questioning look. "Maya," she replied, pointing to herself. Kira nodded and smiled again. She gestured toward the shelter and said something in her musical language, then switched back to English. "You will stay here tonight. Storm will pass, but not soon. It is not safe to travel." Maya looked at the shelter, then at Kira, then back at the shelter. Everything about this situation felt surreal, but the cold was real, and she was shivering badly now. Her survival instincts kicked in. Whatever this was, whoever Kira was, she was offering help when Maya desperately needed it. "Are you sure?" Maya asked. "I don't want to intrude." Kira seemed to understand the hesitation. She walked over to Maya and gently took her by the arm, guiding her toward the shelter. "No intrusion," she said firmly. "The mountain is dangerous tonight. We help each other." As they reached the entrance of the shelter, Maya could feel warmth radiating from inside. Kira pulled back what looked like a curtain of the same flowing material as her clothes, and Maya gasped. The interior was spacious and comfortable, with a soft floor that seemed to adjust to her weight as she stepped inside. The walls continued to glow with that same gentle light, and the temperature was perfectly comfortable. In the center of the space was what appeared to be a sleeping area, but instead of sleeping bags or blankets, there was a large pod-like structure that looked incredibly comfortable. It was big enough for 2 people, and it seemed to be generating its own heat. Kira noticed Maya staring at the sleeping arrangement and spoke again in her musical voice. "It is designed for sharing," she said, though Maya noticed she had to search for some of the English words. "Body heat is shared, temperature is regulated, you will be warm and safe." Maya felt a moment of uncertainty. She had just met this woman, and everything about the situation was strange and unexplainable. But the alternative was going back out into the storm, and she knew that would likely mean freezing to death. Sometimes in life, you had to trust in the kindness of strangers. "Thank you," Maya said, and she meant it with every fiber of her being. "Thank you for saving my life." Kira's smile grew even brighter, and she nodded. "The mountain teaches us to care for each other," she said. "Tonight we are safe together." As Maya settled into the warm shelter, watching the snow continue to fall outside through what seemed to be a transparent section of the wall, she realized that this was going to be a night she would never forget. Whatever happened next, she knew her life had just taken a very unexpected turn. As Maya settled into the unusual sleeping arrangement, she was amazed by how comfortable it felt. The material seemed to adjust to her body perfectly, and within moments, she could feel warmth spreading through her frozen limbs. The pod-like structure was surprisingly spacious, easily accommodating both women without feeling cramped or awkward. Kira moved gracefully as she prepared for the night, checking something on a small device that glowed softly in her hands. Maya watched, fascinated, as symbols and patterns appeared on the device's surface. It looked nothing like any technology she had ever seen, yet somehow it seemed perfectly natural in Kira's hands. "This tells us about the storm," Kira explained, noticing Maya's curious gaze. She held up the device so Maya could see it better. "The wind will be strong until morning. Temperature will drop more. We are safe here, but outside." She shook her head and made a gesture that clearly meant danger. Maya nodded, grateful once again for Kira's kindness. "Where did you get that device?" "I've never seen anything like it." Kira paused, as if choosing her words carefully. "It comes from far away," she said finally. "My people use these to understand weather patterns. I study the environment here, the plants and animals, how everything works together." "You're a scientist?" Maya asked, surprised. She had assumed Kira was just another hiker caught in the storm. "Something like that," Kira replied with a smile. "I travel to different places learning about how nature works." "Your mountains are very interesting. There are patterns here that we do not see in other places." Despite the strange circumstances, Kira seemed genuinely kind and curious about the world around her. She asked Maya many questions about the local wildlife, the seasonal changes, and the challenges facing the forest ecosystem. "I work as a park ranger," Maya explained. "I try to protect this area and the animals that live here. It's not always easy. People sometimes don't understand how important it is to keep these places wild." Kira's eyes lit up with interest. "You protect the land," she said, nodding enthusiastically. "This is very important work. The balance of nature is delicate. When one thing changes, everything else changes too." Maya was impressed by Kira's understanding of ecological principles. Exactly. Most people think of forests as just trees, but it's so much more complex than that. Every plant, every animal, even the soil itself, they're all connected. Yes, Kira agreed. We see this connection in all places we study. The small creatures that live in the soil, they help the trees grow. The trees provide homes for birds and animals. The animals spread seeds to create new forests. Everything depends on everything else. Maya pulled out her phone to show Kira some photos she had taken during her work. Pictures of wildlife, forest restoration projects, and the beautiful landscapes she worked to protect. Kira examined each photo with fascination, asking detailed questions about the animals and plants she saw. This bird, Kira pointed to a photo of a red-tailed hawk. It hunts the small animals that eat tree seeds. That's right, Maya said, impressed by Kira's quick understanding. The hawks help control the population of squirrels and mice. Without them, those animals would eat too. Many seeds, and we'd have fewer new trees growing. Kira nodded thoughtfully. On my world, ... She began, then stopped herself. In other places I have studied, we see similar patterns. Predators and prey, they create balance together. Maya noticed the slip but didn't press. There was something mysterious about Kira, but she seemed genuine in her interest in conservation and environmental science. Maybe she was from a remote research station or a different country with advanced technology. Whatever her background, she clearly understood nature better than most people Maya had met. As the night wore on, Kira showed Maya a notebook filled with detailed drawings and observations. The sketches were incredibly accurate, showing plants and animals in precise detail. But some of the drawings depicted landscapes that Maya didn't recognize, strange rock formations, unusual plant life, and skies that seemed to have different colors than Earth's atmosphere. These are beautiful, Maya said, studying the drawings. Where are these places? Different locations, Kira said vaguely. I traveled to many places for my research. Some are very remote, very different from here. One drawing in particular caught Maya's attention. It showed a vast landscape with unusual geological features and what looked like some kind of settlement. In the distance, the architecture was unlike anything Maya had seen, with flowing organic shapes that seemed to blend seamlessly with the natural environment. This looks like something from a dream, Maya said, tracing the lines with her finger. Kira smiled mysteriously. Sometimes the most real places feel like dreams, she said. And sometimes dreams show us places that are more real than we think. Outside, the storm continued to rage, but inside their shelter, Maya felt completely safe and warm. Sleeping arrangement maintained a perfect temperature, and the soft glow from the walls created a peaceful atmosphere. Despite the unusual circumstances, Maya found herself more relaxed than she had been in months. I have to ask, Maya said, how does all this work? The shelter, the temperature control, that device you have, it's not like any camping equipment I've ever seen. Kira was quiet for a moment, as if deciding how much to reveal. My people have developed ways to work with nature instead of against it, she said finally. We have learned to create things that do not harm the environment. This shelter. It uses the natural energy around us. It does not burn fuel or create waste. That's incredible, Maya said. We could really use that kind of technology. Climate change is one of the biggest challenges we face in conservation work. Yes, Kira agreed, seriously. The changing climate affects all living things. Ice melts, sea levels rise, weather patterns shift. Plants and animals must adapt or find new homes. It is a problem that affects the whole world. Maya was struck by how much Kira seemed to understand about global environmental issues. You speak like someone who has seen these changes happening everywhere. I have studied many places, Kira said simply. Yes. The changes are happening faster than most people realize. But there is still time to make things better if people work together. As the night grew later, Maya found herself sharing her own concerns about the future of the environment. She talked about the challenges of educating people about conservation, the difficulty of balancing human needs with environmental protection, and her fears about what the world might look like for future generations. Kira listened thoughtfully. occasionally asking questions or sharing insights from her own observations. Despite her mysterious background, she seemed to genuinely care about the same issues that kept Maya awake at night. "You know what's funny?" Maya said as they prepared to sleep. "I'm out here to get away from people and think about things. Alone, but talking with you tonight has helped me more than weeks of hiking by myself." Kira smiled warmly. "Sometimes the best discoveries happen when we least expect them," she said. "The storm brought us together for a reason. Perhaps we both needed to meet someone who understands." As Maya drifted off to sleep in the comfortable warmth of the shelter, she felt a sense of connection that went beyond their shared interest. In environmental science, there was something special about Kira, something that made Maya feel like she had found a kindred spirit in the most unlikely place. Maya woke up feeling more rested than she had in weeks. The storm had passed during the night, and gentle morning sunlight was filtering through the transparent sections of the shelter. She stretched and realized that the sleeping arrangement had somehow adjusted to her movements throughout the night, keeping her perfectly comfortable. It was like waking up in the most luxurious bed she had ever experienced. Kira was already awake, sitting cross-legged near the entrance of the shelter. Watching the sunrise paint the snow-covered landscape in shades of gold and pink, she turned. When she heard Maya stirring and smiled, that same warm smile from the night before, "Good morning," Kira said softly. "The storm has moved on. Today will be clear and beautiful." Maya sat up and looked outside in amazement. The world had been transformed. Overnight, everything was covered in a thick blanket of pristine white snow, and the trees looked like they were decorated with crystal ornaments. It was breathtakingly beautiful, but Maya also realized how dangerous it would have been to be caught outside in that storm. "Thank you again for letting me stay," Maya said. "I don't think I would have survived out there." "We'll help each other," Kira replied simply. "That is how we survive and grow stronger." As Maya became more alert, she started to notice things about their shelter that seemed even more unusual in the daylight. The walls were perfectly smooth and seamless, as if they had been grown rather than built. The glowing panels that had provided light and warmth during the night were now barely visible, somehow having adjusted to the natural daylight coming through the transparent sections. "Kira, I have to ask," Maya said. "This shelter is incredible. How does it work? I've never seen materials like this before." Kira was quiet for a moment, as if deciding how much to explain. "My people have learned to work with materials that respond to their environment," she said carefully. "These walls can change their properties based on temperature, light, and weather conditions. They are grown from organic compounds that we have developed over many years." "Grown?" Maya asked, fascinated. "You mean like plants? Similar to plants, but different?" Kira explained. "We have learned to create materials that are alive in a way, but they do exactly what we need them to. They can provide shelter, regulate temperature, and even repair themselves if they are damaged." Maya shook her head in amazement. "That's incredible. Are you some kind of scientist or engineer?" "I am what you might call a field researcher," Kira said. "I study different environments and how life adapts to them. My work is to understand the connections between all living things and how they can work together in harmony." As they talked, Kira began to pack up her equipment, and Maya was amazed by what she saw. The shelter began to fold itself down, the walls becoming flexible and compact. Within minutes, what had been a spacious, comfortable room was now a small package that Kira could easily carry in her backpack. "How is that possible?" Maya asked, staring at the impossibly small package. "The materials return to their dormant state when they are not needed," Kira explained. "They use very little energy and take up very little space. This way, we can travel without damaging the environment or carrying heavy equipment." Maya watched as Kira packed away the other items from their camp. Everything seemed to be made from the same advanced materials, and everything compressed down to a fraction of its expanded size. It was like watching magic happen in front of her eyes. "Kira," Maya said slowly, "where exactly are you from? This technology is unlike anything I've ever seen, and I work with scientists and researchers all the time." Kira paused in her packing and looked at Maya with a serious expression. "I come from a place that is very far away," she said. "My people have been studying your world for a long time, trying to understand how life works here. We have learned much, but there is still Much we do not know. My world, Maya repeated, catching the unusual phrasing. You mean this region or this country? I mean this planet, Kira said quietly. Earth is not my original home. Maya stared at her, trying to process what she had just heard. Are you saying you're from another planet? Kira nodded slowly. Yes, I know it is difficult to believe, but it is true. My people come from a world that is very different from this one, but we face many of the same challenges.
Ow.
Our environment was damaged by poor choices, and we have spent many generations learning how to heal it. Maya sat down heavily on a fallen log, her mind reeling. But you look just like me. You speak English. How is that possible? We are not so different from humans, Kira explained. Life tends to develop in similar ways across the universe. We have been studying your languages and customs for many years. I have been preparing for this mission for a long time. Mission? Maya asked. To learn from your world, Kira said. To understand how your ecosystems work, how your plants and animals adapt to change, and how we might apply these lessons to help our own world recover. We have technology that can help, but we need to understand the natural processes that make ecosystems healthy. Maya stood up and walked a few steps away, trying to wrap her mind around what she was hearing. So you're an alien, she said, testing the words out loud. I prefer to think of myself as a visitor, Kira said with a gentle smile. Someone who has come to learn from your beautiful world. Maya turned back to face her. But why tell me this? Why reveal such a huge secret to someone you just met? Because you understand, Kira said. You dedicate your life to protecting the environment. See the connections between all living things. You know that what happens to one part of the ecosystem affects everything else. My people need to learn from people like you. Maya walked back and sat down across from Kira. What happened to your world? What kind of damage are you trying to heal? Kira's expression became sad. My people made many mistakes when we were younger. As a species, we used up natural resources without thinking about the consequences. We polluted our air and water. We destroyed habitats and caused many species to disappear forever. It took us many generations to realize that we were destroying our own home. But you fixed it? Maya asked hopefully. We are still fixing it, Kira said. We have learned to live in harmony with our environment, but the damage was severe. Some things we lost can never be replaced. That is why it is so important to learn from your world, while there is still time to prevent the same mistakes. Maya felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold mountain air. You think we're making the same mistakes? Some of your people are, Kira said honestly, but others like you are working to prevent the damage. There is still hope for your world. The question is whether enough people will listen and take action before it is too late. Maya stood up and began pacing back and forth in the snow. This is a lot to take in, she said. I mean, I believe you. It's the technology you have, the way you understand environmental science. It all makes sense now. But it's also terrifying. Why terrifying? Kira asked. Because if you're here, studying our world, learning from our mistakes, that means you think we might be heading for the same kind of environmental collapse that your people experienced. Kira nodded gravely. That is one possible future. But it is not the only one. Your world still has time to choose a different path. And there are people like you who can help guide that choice. Maya stopped pacing and looked at Kira with new understanding. That's why you're really here, isn't it? Not just to study our ecosystems, but to find people who might be able to help? Perhaps, Kira said with a mysterious smile. Sometimes, the most important discoveries happen when we least expect them. A storm brought us together, but maybe that was not just chance. Maya felt a mixture of excitement and responsibility settling over her. If Kira was telling the truth, and she was becoming more convinced that she was, then this chance meeting might be the most important moment of her life, not just for herself, but for the entire planet. Maya and Kira spent the next 3 days together as they waited for the snow to melt enough to make hiking safe again. What started as a chance encounter had turned into the most fascinating and educational experience of Maya's life. Each morning, Kira would show her something new about the forest that she had never noticed before. And each evening they would sit together sharing stories about their different worlds. On the second morning, Kira pulled out a small device that looked like a combination of a microscope and a computer. She showed Maya how to use it to examine soil samples, plant tissues, and even the air around them. Through this device, Maya could see the microscopic world that existed all around them, tiny organisms in the soil, the cellular structure of leaves, and even the invisible particles floating in the air. "This is incredible," Maya said, watching. "Bacteria move around in a drop of pond water. I've never seen anything like this level of detail before. Our equipment at the ranger station is nowhere near this advanced. This device can show you the health of an entire ecosystem," Kira explained. "See these small creatures in the soil? They tell us if the ground is healthy or if there are problems. If we see fewer of them, or different types, it means something is changing in the environment." Maya was amazed by how much information the device could provide. It could analyze water quality, measure air purity, and even detect the early signs of disease in plants before they became visible to the naked eye. "We could prevent so many problems if we had tools like this," she said. "That is exactly why I am here," Kira replied. "My people want to share knowledge that can help protect your world. But we have learned that technology alone is not enough. We need people who understand the land and care about protecting it." Over the following days, Kira taught Maya techniques for reading the forest that went far beyond anything she had learned in her training. She showed her how to identify stress patterns in trees by examining their bark and leaves, how to predict weather changes by observing animal behavior, and how to find water sources by reading the landscape. "Your people have forgotten many things that they once knew," Kira said as they walked through a grove of ancient pine trees. "Long ago, humans lived much closer to nature. They could read the signs that plants and animals gave them. They understood the rhythms of the seasons and the connections between all living things." "What happened to that knowledge?" Maya asked. "Progress," Kira said with a sad smile. "As humans developed technology and built cities, they moved away from nature. They forgot the old ways of understanding the world. Many people see nature as something separate from themselves, something to be used rather than something to be part of." Maya nodded, thinking about her own experience. "I see that all the time in my work. People come to the forest to take pictures or collect souvenirs, but they don't really see it. They don't understand that they're part of it." "But you understand," Kira said. "That is why our meeting was important. You have the heart of the old ways, but you also understand the new challenges your world faces." As they continued their conversations, Maya learned more about Kira's world and the journey her people had taken. They had once been very similar. Two humans, developing technology and industry without considering the environmental costs.
Oh.
But their world had reached a crisis point much earlier than Earth was experiencing. "We call it the Great Awakening," Kira explained. "It was a time when our people realized that we had to change completely or face extinction. We had poisoned our rivers, cleared our forests, and filled our air with pollution. Many species had already disappeared forever. How did you turn things around?" Maya asked. "It took many generations," Kira said. "We had to learn to live differently. We developed new technologies that worked with nature instead of against it. We restored damaged lands and brought back species that had almost disappeared. Most importantly, we learned to see ourselves as part of the natural world, not separate from it." Maya was fascinated by the stories of restoration projects on Kira's world. They had developed ways to clean polluted water using specially designed plants, to restore soil health using beneficial bacteria, and to create energy without producing harmful waste. But what impressed her most was how they had changed their entire way of thinking about their relationship with the environment. "We learned that a healthy environment is not a luxury," Kira said. "It is the foundation of all life. Everything we do must consider the impact on the air, water, soil, and all the creatures that share our world." On their third day together, Kira showed Maya something that took her breath away. She pulled out a small seed from her pack and placed it in a patch of bare soil that had been damaged by erosion. Within hours, the seed had sprouted and begun to grow. By evening, it had become a small plant with roots that were already starting to hold the soil together. This plant was designed to restore a damaged land, Kira explained. It grows quickly and helps other plants establish themselves. Within a few months, this bare patch will be covered with native vegetation. You created this plant? Maya asked. In amazement, my people developed it over many years, Kira said. We learned to work with the natural processes of growth and adaptation. This plant does what nature wants to do anyway. It just does it faster and more efficiently. Maya knelt down and touched the small plant gently. This could change everything, she said. We have so many areas that need restoration. Places where mining or logging has damaged the soil, or where erosion has washed away the topsoil. That is why I am here, Kira said. Find people who can use this knowledge wisely. Technology is powerful, but it must be used by people who understand the importance of protecting the natural world. As Maya looked up at Kira, she felt a sense of purpose that she had never experienced before. You want me to help, don't you? To work with you to protect the environment? I want you to understand that you are not alone, Kira said. There are others like you, people who care deeply about the natural world. Some are on your planet and some are on worlds far away. We are all connected by our desire to protect life and preserve beauty. Maya stood up and brushed the dirt from her hands. What would that mean? How could I help? Continue doing what you are already doing, Kira said. Protect the land, educate people, and help them understand the connections between all living things. But now you will have tools and knowledge that can make your work more effective. And you? Maya asked. What will you do? I will continue my research, Kira said. I will visit other places, meet other people who care about the environment, and learn more about how your world works. But I will also stay in contact with you. We can share information and help each other. Maya felt a mixture of excitement and responsibility. This is bigger than I ever imagined, she said. I thought I was just doing my job, protecting one small area of forest. But you're talking about protecting the entire planet. Every small action matters, Kira said. The forest you protect is connected to all the other forests on your planet. The knowledge you gain here can be shared with others around the world. Change begins with individuals who care enough to take action. As the sun began to set on their third day together, Maya realized that her life had changed forever. She was no longer just a park ranger doing her job. She was part of something much larger, a network of people and beings across the universe who were working to protect the natural world. I'm ready, she said to Kira. I'm ready to do whatever it takes to help protect our world. Kira smiled and placed her hand on Maya's shoulder. I knew you would be, she said. That is why the storm brought us together. Sometimes the most important meetings happen when we least expect them. On the fourth morning, the sun rose bright and clear, melting the last of the snow from the hiking trails. Maya knew that their time together was coming to an end, and she felt a deep sadness at the thought of saying goodbye to Kira. Over the past few days, she had learned more about the natural world than in all her years of training combined. But more importantly, she had found a friend who truly understood her passion for protecting the environment as they packed up their things. Kira pulled out a small device that looked like a smooth stone. It was about the size of Maya's palm and had a warm, pleasant feeling when she held it. The surface seemed to shift and change color slightly, like looking at oil on water. This is for you, Kira said, placing the device in Maya's hands. It will help you in your work. Maya turned the device over in her hands, feeling its smooth surface. What does it do? It can monitor the health of your forest in ways that your current equipment cannot, Kira explained. It will detect changes in air quality, soil health, water purity, and even the stress levels of plants and animals. It can warn you of problems before they become serious. But how does it work? Maya asked, fascinated by the device's shifting. Colors. It reads the energy patterns of living things, Kira said. Every plant, every animal, even the soil itself, gives off signals that tell us about its health. This device can understand those signals and translate them into information you can use. Maya looked up at Kira with amazement. This could revolutionize conservation work. We could prevent problems instead of just reacting to them after damage is already done. That is exactly the idea, Kira smiled. Prevention is always better than trying to fix things after they are broken. Kira showed Maya how to use the device. When she held it near a tree, it would glow green if the tree was healthy, yellow if it was stressed, and red if there were serious problems. When she pointed it at the stream nearby, it showed the water quality in real time. When she used it to scan the soil, it revealed the presence of beneficial bacteria and nutrients. This is incredible, Maya said, testing the device on different plants and rocks around their campsite. I can see which areas of the forest are thriving and which ones need help. There is more, Kira said. She touched a small symbol on the device's surface, and suddenly Maya could hear what sounded like whispers in the wind. It can also translate the chemical signals that plants use to communicate with each other. Maya listened in wonder as the device interpreted the forest's hidden conversations. She could hear trees warning each other about insect damage, plants calling for help when they needed water, and the underground network of roots and fungi sharing nutrients between different species. I had no idea, Maya whispered. I knew plants communicated, but I never imagined it was this complex. Your forests are like cities, Kira explained. There are neighborhoods, trade routes, communication networks, and systems for sharing resources. The more you understand these connections, the better you can protect them. As they prepared to leave their campsite, Kira gave Maya one more gift, a small communications device that looked like a piece of jewelry. It was beautiful, with a design that seemed to flow like water or wind. This will allow us to stay in contact, Kira said, as she helped Maya put it on. No matter how far apart we are, we can share information and help each other. Maya touched the device gently. Will I see you again? Perhaps, Kira said with a mysterious smile. My work takes me to many places, but our paths may cross again. And even if we do not meet in person, we are connected now. The work we do to protect the environment connects all of us across the universe. As they walked down the mountain trail together, Maya felt like she was seeing the forest with completely new eyes. The monitoring device in her pack was all ready, showing her things she had never noticed before, which trees were communicating with each other, where the soil was richest, and which areas needed the most protection. I feel like I've been blind my whole life, Maya said as they paused to look at a grove of aspen trees. I thought I understood this forest, but I was only seeing the surface. You are not blind, Kira corrected gently. You are learning. Understanding comes in layers, like growth rings in a tree. Each year, each experience adds another ring of knowledge. When they reached the main trail where Maya's path led back to the ranger station and Kira's led deeper into the wilderness, they stopped for their final goodbye. Maya felt tears in her eyes as she realized how much her life had changed in just 4 days. Thank you, Maya said, hugging Kira tightly. For saving my life, for teaching me so much, and for showing me that I'm part of something bigger than I ever imagined. Thank you for showing me the heart of a true protector, Kira replied. Your love for this land gives me hope for your world's future. As Kira disappeared into the forest, Maya stood on the trail for a long time, watching until she could no longer see her friend's figure among the trees. Then she began the journey back to her normal life, knowing that nothing would ever be quite the same again. Over the following months, Maya's work as a park ranger was transformed. Using the monitoring device Kira had given her, she was able to identify and solve environmental problems before they became serious threats. She discovered illegal dumping sites by detecting chemical pollution in streams. She located areas where invasive species were beginning to establish themselves and removed them before they could spread. She even prevented a wildfire by detecting the stress signals from drought-affected trees and arranging for emergency watering. Her success didn't go unnoticed. Maya was promoted to head of conservation for the entire region, giving her the authority to implement new protection programs across multiple parks and forests. She began training other rangers to use similar observation techniques. Though she couldn't share the advanced technology Kira had given her, the communication device allowed Maya to stay in touch with Kira as she traveled to other parts of the world. Through their conversations, Maya learned about conservation challenges in rainforests, deserts, ocean ecosystems, and Arctic regions. She also learned that Kira had made contact with other environmental scientists and activists around the globe, quietly sharing knowledge and technology. to help protect the planet. We are building a network, Kira explained during one of their conversations. People who understand that protecting the environment is the most important work we can do. Each person we help becomes able to help others. Maya began connecting with some of these other people, sharing information and strategies for conservation work. She discovered that there were dedicated environmental protectors on every continent, all working toward the same goal of preserving the natural world. For future generations, a year after their meeting, Maya received a message from Kira that filled her with excitement and pride. "The forest you protect has become one of the healthiest ecosystems we have monitored," the message said. "Your work is making a real difference, not just locally, but as an example for others around the world." Maya looked out at the forest she had dedicated her life to protecting. Using Kira's monitoring device, she could see the invisible networks of communication between the trees, the healthy flow of nutrients through the soil, and the thriving communities of animals and insects that called this place home. The forest was more beautiful and more alive than it had been in decades. But the most important change wasn't in the forest, it was in Maya herself. She no longer felt like she was fighting a losing battle against environmental destruction. Instead, she felt like she was part of a growing movement of people who were successfully protecting and restoring the natural world. Sometimes, when Maya was walking through the forest on quiet evenings, she would remember that stormy night when she had been lost and afraid, and how a stranger's kindness had changed her life forever. She had learned that help could come from the most unexpected places, that one person's actions could create ripples of positive change that spread far beyond what they could ever imagine. The forest whispered its secrets to her now, and Maya whispered back her promise to always be its protector and friend.